So, a few years ago, when I was a kid, it's been more than a few years now, like 20 something years ago when I was a kid, I saw Hercules for the first time ever. And it's a fantastic movie. I've always loved it. It's never been like huge on my list of most influential movies in my life. Not like Star Wars, the Star Wars movies, for example. But up until recently, when I rewatched it with my girlfriend, who's never seen the movie before, which is why we watched it, and my rewatch that I put in after that, just so that I could make this video, I came to realize that Hercules has had a much larger influence on my life than I realized initially. Sorry. Um, because I came to realize that without Hercules, this movie, I may have never gotten into mythology enough to get into the game Age of Mythology, which is where I learned even more mythology than I got to learn from Hercules. But that's one of the things. Let's just get straight into what makes the movie so good, because there's nothing to say bad about this movie. It's just all good. This is a peak Disney movie, hand drawn. Story is amazing, and the characters are all very well fleshed out. You wind up falling in love with almost every single one of them, even the bad guys. Um, and let's just double back on the hand drawn aspect. It's hand drawn animation that just looks so good. It even gets combined with 2D or 3D CGI, and you can barely even tell that there's a mash of media there. It's just so well done. Let's start from the beginning though. The movie starts with introducing us to all the gods of Olympus and Hercules. Hercules is born. We see Hera. We see Zeus. They're fawning over, um, they're fawning over their new baby. And as we're coming into Olympus, it pans over pretty much every single god that's in the pantheon, which is awesome because none were forgotten. And if there's any that were, I wouldn't know because that's just simply outside of my area of expertise. But it seems like a very knowledgeable film right off the bat because it includes every single one of their many gods. Anyways, secondly, we step into, like I said, they're all fawning over Hercules. Hades shows up, and he straight up goes into this Cinderella-esque scene of how he's got his own personal interests in this child that are not at all good. They're completely nefarious because it turns out that Hades is going to try to take over Olympus, and the fates tell him that if he doesn't get rid of Hercules, then he's never going to succeed. The fates are so interesting themselves. I love the way that the fates were drawn. It's a lot of the times you see them depicted as they are in the original mythological media. They're old, decrepit, eyeless, sharing one eye of foresight. Very entertaining. And Hades comes along and he just starts hitting on these nasty little things to get his way with them. Mind you, Hades is voiced by James Woods. Hilarious pick. Because most people only think of James Woods when they think of Family Guy, I think. Me personally, at least, I only think of Family Guy when I think of James Woods. And yet, here we are with Hades, the hot-headed god of the dead, who just loses his shit over every little inconvenience. I love Hades. Hands down, one of the best characters in the entire movie. But we'll get into that a little bit later when we're talking about all the characters. Hades gets filled in on the plan that the flaw to his plan that he cannot succeed if Hercules is around. So he sends his minions, these two little demons known as Ache and Pain, I believe, and sends them to go make Hercules mortal. Fantastic plan because it's the perfect way to send Hercules to Earth without it being too dramatic or anything. I mean, I think the drama was perfectly handled in the scene when they're feeding him the bottle of poison or whatever, and then they have to run off because the two farmers show up. Like it's scene straight out of a Superman rewrite. Godly-esque being lands on Earth. Two farmers find him and raise him. But so they're just about to finish feeding him the bottle. They have to sneak off because the farmers show up, and then they leap from the shadows to finish the job, thinking that they had made Hercules mortal. And he grabs them by their necks and flings them off into the distance like Team Rocket. I'm realizing that don't have the time to tell the whole story of the plot, but speed forward. We're dealing with a young adolescent Hercules who, for some reason, is wicked scrawny despite being a demigod who retained his godly strength. Like they specifically say in the songs sung by the Muses, who are also great characters, by the way. I love what they did with the Muses. We'll get into that with them as well. The Muses specifically say as they're singing the plot behind the visual storyboard that we're being shown, like animated, that he keeps his godly strength. He was buffer as a baby than he is as an adolescent. Mind you, you're all gonna say baby fat, baby fat. No, dude, that was a buff little baby, like fucking Finn from Adventure Time. I'm a buff. What does he say in that song? I'm a buff little baby, but I fight like a man. Something like that, dude. Fucking, he's literally jacked, man. That is a jacked little baby. And then when he grows into an adult, he like loses all of his muscle mass. It's really weird because he goes into his training scene with Philip and gets his muscle mass back like that. And it makes me wonder, like it gives me this question that I think would be best addressed in a better in a whole video on its own. But it makes me wonder if Hercules was already still strong and durable to go with his strength as a teenager. What did the training actually give him? Did it just increase his strength, which was already high, and his durability, which was already high, or did it give him like additional stats as well? I don't know, but it's not something to be too thought about. It's a Disney movie for kids. Like as much as the movie seems to be well thought out and well informed on gods and stuff, there are still a couple of small plot holes like that one, but that's irrelevant to how amazing the rest of the story is. So he goes through his training arc after meeting this demi-dude that was ordained to him by his father, and he's a pretty well written teen, I think, because almost every single time that Philip tries to tell him to do something, he listens, but he's always got something to add in, some sort of 5 cents, or well, why don't we do this, or why don't we do that. He is very well written in that way, and it doesn't change even after he finishes his training arc. Like he's still very brash. He doesn't think completely before he acts, which was part of the training, by the way, but we're just gonna leave that to the fact that Phil's not the greatest at what he does. He trains people through a singing montage, and we all know that that's just some Disney gobbledygook, but that's okay. Anyways, so we get introduced to Megara, the first love interest then that we'll have. I say first, but she's the only love interest, and she just takes over Hercules' brain like that. Once again, leaning into how heavily the whole teenage boy aspect goes, it's extremely hilarious because he just tongue trips over her. He can't even use his own feet, never mind his tongue. He's just completely awestruck by this girl, and it actually winds up being to his detriment because it turns out, as we find out later on, that she's working for Hades, and when Hercules first comes across her, she's just in the process of trying to recruit some minions for Hades, and it just happened to go wrong. But that brings Hercules back into Hades' scope of view because Hades was under the impression that Ache and Pain had successfully killed Hercules. with that not being true, now Hercules' whole world kind of comes crashing down on him again, even though as he was a teenager, his life kind of sucked because everybody hated him because he had no control over his strength and he was just wrecking everything. And now all of that's behind him because people love him again after his training arc. Like he went through the whole training arc. He saved people. He killed the Hydra. He went. Oh, yeah, he was already under Hades' guys after killing the not guys under Hades' view after killing the Hydra. But still, it gets worse at this point because Hades is furious now that not only did Ache Pain fail, but he's realizing that he has to come up with a whole new set of plans now. It's just I don't know. I feel like I've wasted too much time just talking about the plot of the movie. I want to talk about the characters now, so that way I can spend like the next 5 to 10 minutes doing that. Every single character in this movie is very well fleshed out, and that's kind of what I was trying to get into with the last 5 minutes talking about Hercules. Um, every single one of these characters is well fleshed out, even if they don't get the exact same amount of time that, say, Hercules did. And maybe that's only because I feel like I know these characters so well after seeing the movie so many times and also knowing things about mythology that maybe not every other viewer might know. Um, but it's like, Megara just seems like a real person. Every interaction she has with Hercules feels like that of this is gonna sound bad, but that of a manipulative woman. It's actually hilarious how well she's written. But then, as she gets further developed, as we get into the movie, we learn that she's not just a manipulator. She's actually a traumatized villain, we can say. She's only working for Hades because some dude sold her out, and she sold her soul for him just for him to run off with some other woman. Fucking rough. I don't think that part ever stuck with me as I was a kid because I was just too young to understand it, and I don't think I paid enough attention to it, like in my viewings up until the past two of them, because I don't know why that never stuck with me before. But now that I noticed that part of the movie, it's just like, whoa, dude. Like, it's mature stuff like that they used to put in Disney media for children because they felt like kids were smart enough to, or either smart enough to understand it and work with it, or just not mature enough yet to get the message that it would go over their heads, but everybody else watching it would be able to enjoy that message. Such good writing. And then you just have like characters like Hades, for example, who, while being fleshed out in the, can we? You know what? I'm just gonna play this in the background on mute so that stops doing that. There's the muses. Gotta love the muses. Um, right, we were talking about Hades. I forgot where I left off. So, while Hades is fleshed out, he's definitely a little bit less of a intricate character, and he's just very well described as nothing more than a hothead. He flips out over every single small problem. Every inconvenience gets him burning. But the thing that's great about Hades is not just how funny his bad temper is, but the fact that when he burns bright with rage, not only there's these small details about it that, for example, he has this one scene, excuse me, he has this one scene where he's just breathing in and out with rage, trying to calm himself down, but each small inhale and exhale, you can see his internal flame because he's kind of just he's like a burning flame. He's a mix of smoke and fire. And every time he gets mad, he starts to burn. And when he does, he glows very brightly. That was so well animated in these movies. Despite being hand drawn, I don't know how they did it, but they made him glow. And there's, like I was trying to describe, there's this one scene where he's breathing in and out very rapidly, and every inhale and exhale, he just glows a little bit, just a little bit, and then dims back out, glows a little bit, dims back out, glows a little bit, dims back out, instead of just full blown lighting up like a light bulb and then extinguishing like he does in most other scenes. And when I was rewatching it the last time, that was so funny to me because I just never realized how much detail went into making these movies. Um, and I think that's mainly to do with because when these movies came out, the TVs available just couldn't show that level of detail that was actually being put into these. The same thing goes for Shrek. But we'll talk about that another time in depth. Real quick, Shrek did the same thing. There's a lot of small details in Shrek and Shrek 2 that could not be seen on older TVs but can now be seen in 4K. Anyways, he is just so funny with stuff like that. Those small details about his embers burning slightly with each amount, every little minuscule amount of rage that burns within him. Love it. And I mentioned earlier that he's voice acted by James Woods. I still think that's hilarious to this day that they got the fucking Family Guy to do it. But I mean, they also had Danny DeVito in this movie playing Philip, so I guess that that was kind of their point, is they were leaning towards some comedic voices for this. Cause I mean, it is a funny movie. Like it's got these great jokes. Like there's this one joke in specific that I absolutely fucking love, that I died laughing at watching it with my girl because I don't think I ever noticed this joke before, but after learning Roman numerals, there's the scene with the Hydra that I mentioned earlier. Before the Hydra comes out, Meg lures Hercules out to this canyon where some rocks fell on Ache and Pain, who are disguised as children. They're calling for help. Help! Help! We're suffocating in here! Call IXII! Which, it took me a second in the moment to realize IXII. I was like, well, IXII. That's 911 in no Roman numerals. Oh, that's so funny. Like, in the moment, like, I know I make it sound cringe and sarcastic when I say it like that, but it was genuinely so fucking funny in the second when I realized that it was a Roman numeral joke. Maybe I'm just a slight history nerd. Like, maybe that's why it's funny to me. Maybe other people don't find that amusing, but I thought that was hilarious. There was another joke too. I don't remember what it was. I asked my girl; she doesn't remember what it was either, unfortunately. But there's historical. I can't get the camera to focus. Hello, there we go. There were historical jokes in there too. Like it's like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video. It's a educated movie. It's so smart with the humor. It's not fucking brain rotted like some of the shit that they put on TV and in the movie theaters now. The art for this movie is top notch. There's this thing that they do with the colors, and when like certain scenes when Hercules or other characters are in danger, where the scene will turn to like hues of red or dark blue and purple. Sometimes like yellows and oranges as well. That just they do an amazing job of indicating like terror, stress, issues, genuine, like just problematic color. I guess you could call them problematic colors. I don't know if that sounds right, but colors that indicate that something isn't right. Just chef's kiss. This is the kind of stuff that Disney doesn't produce anymore that we need them to start producing again, because if we don't, I don't know if Disney will ever become the company that it used to be when I was a kid. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to sound like one of those Disney adults that watches Winnie the Pooh all day and fucking cries about how things aren't what they used to be. But it's seriously like, I'm so tired of Disney using that stupid art style where everything looks like fucking turning red. I'm so glad that Hoppers broke that trend And even still, I think there were a couple of characters in that movie. I haven't seen it, but I'm basing this off of the trailers that I saw. I'm pretty sure there were still a couple characters in that movie that looked like they were out of the fucking awful Turning Red movie. But that's another complaint to be addressed in something else. I think I'm gonna wrap this up here because I think I got everything that I wanted to say out. Hercules is an amazing movie. It's artistic, it's funny, it's musical in an enjoyable way. It's historically accurate or mythologically accurate ish in a way that I think even super mythological nerds could enjoy. It's a movie that if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Like, it's been out for so long. Go watch Hercules, man. Go pirate it if you have to. Hercules is an amazing movie. Go fucking watch it. I'm gonna wrap this up here so I can get out of toga mode and go edit this. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.